2025 NFL Draft Rankings Top 15 Wide Receivers. Last year, we had one of the best wide receiver classes in NFL history. This year's class doesn't live up to the lofty projections from 2024, but still offers a ton of intriguing players. And it's one of the fastest groups of wide receivers in NFL history. This year, we had 10 wide receivers run sub 4.4 40-yard dashes, the most in NFL history. And that's without Travis Hunter and a few others even running. Today, I'm breaking down my top 15 wide receivers for the 2025 NFL draft class, and I'll give my full takes on everyone in the top 10. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First, let's get to my 11 through 15 rankings and honorable mention. Pat Bryant from Illinois comes in at 15, Savion Williams at number 14, Stanford's Elick Aomanor at number 13, Tez Johnson at number 12. I think Tez can be a good slot receiver, but his upside is limited. And then at number 11, I have Jaylin Royals. He's versatile, a good route runner, and a lot of people are going to have him in their top 10. I have him just missing out. He's a deep threat who can track the ball very well, but he's probably a wide receiver 3 or 4 in the NFL. And then quickly, before I get into the top 10, I have to mention Isaiah Bond as an honorable mention. He was recently arrested and has some serious allegations against him. I'm not going to comment on the matter, but the timing was very unfortunate. 2 weeks before the NFL draft, and if he doesn't clear his name by then, he risks falling way down draft boards or even going undrafted. The speedy wide receiver from Texas was a borderline top 10 wide receiver prospect for me in this class, but the recent news I've dropped him out of my top 15. And now we get to number 11, Jack Bech from TCU, a great story. He excelled at the Senior Bowl and consistently wins in the slot. He might not ever be a true number one target in the NFL, but he reminds me of a Wes Welker type receiver. He makes big plays when it matters most and was a standout at the Senior Bowl, including catching the game-winning TD pass in the game on Saturday. He should instantly contribute as a slot guy in the NFL. He's undersized and underrated, but he will be a good football player in the NFL. At number 9, I have Jaylin Noel out of Iowa State, a guy who should immediately contribute as a slot receiver in the NFL as well. He's shifty and elusive with sticky hands. Similar to Jack Bech, QBs will love him as an option on third downs. He reminds me of a Tyler Boyd or a Christian Kirk type player with limited upside but a high floor. He doesn't have the size to win on the outside consistently and will get jammed by more physical corners at the line of scrimmage and has some bad drops on film. He's not a yards after catch guy, but he brings versatility as a return man both on punts and kick returns. Plus, he has that 4.39 speed. Similar to Jack Bech, he might be limited to a slot receiver, but I think he has more vertical speed, and his biggest contributions in the NFL is going to be as a vertical slot receiver. These next two guys on my list might surprise people, as I have them ranked higher than the consensus. At number 8, I have Ole Miss's wide receiver Tre Harris. He reminds me a lot of an Xavier Legette or even a budget version of A.J. Brown. He doesn't profile as a number one wide receiver in the NFL, but he looks like a possession guy who can be a number two weapon on an offense. He had 1,000 yards in just 8 games in 2024 and is an incredible contested catch guy. He looks like a red zone target and possession weapon at the NFL level. He has very solid hands and nearly a 40-inch vertical. Keep an eye on Tre Harris on draft day. And then at number 6, this guy might surprise you. I have Kyle Williams out of Washington State. His release off the line of scrimmage is amazing, and he gets as much separation as any receiver in this class. He ran a 4.42 40, has great hands, and is a really solid route runner. He lacks elite size. He's just 5'10 and a half, shorter than me, and just 190 pounds. So he has to beat press coverage. But when he does, he flashes some Antonio Brown-like capabilities to get open and make big plays. His speed shows up on tape. He had more plays where he hit 20 plus miles per hour than any wide receiver in the country. He's probably one of the bigger enigmas on the list. A lot of people don't even have Kyle Williams in their top 10 wide receivers, and I'm well aware of that, but come back after the NFL draft, as I believe he's going to get drafted higher than most people expect. I'm higher on him than most, and I think he will be a good player in the NFL. And then at number 6, I have Iowa State's other receiver, Jaden Higgins. He has a big physical NFL frame. He's 6'4", and he's still such a smooth mover. He has great concentration skills and a solid catch radius. He looks like a prototypical X receiver with the size to be a day one starter. He's a solid route runner, and he reminds me in ways of T. Higgins without as much upside. But he's versatile and fluid enough to play in the slot in the NFL as well. I don't know if he'll ever be a true number one, but his versatility should allow him to contribute as a number two type wide receiver in the NFL who can play inside or outside. One of my favorite parts of Higgins' game is his ability to adjust to poorly thrown balls or just pluck balls out of the air with his hands. A very good player, only 7 career drops on 350 plus targets. Reliable hands, he will be good in the NFL. And now for my top 5. First up is Texas's speedster Matthew Golden. He's a player I really like, but I do understand I have him ranked lower than he's going to get drafted. To me, it's harder to rank him higher just because he'll get drafted ahead of other guys who I consider better wide receiver prospects. He was just not as good on tape as any of the top 4 guys. However, he ran a 4.29 40-yard dash, and the NFL has a history of overdrafting wideouts that run sub 4.3 40s. Matthew Golden will continue that tradition. Now, don't take it out of context. I like this receiver. I think he's a guy who can eventually be a number one receiver in the NFL. His best football is still ahead of him. He has home run speed, he's a fluid mover, and brings big play potential to the table. But man, his production does not match that of a top 15 player. When you go back and watch his tape in Houston in 2022 and 2023, he looks like a third or fourth round pick. This year at Texas, he turned it on and he played his best football down the stretch, finishing his career with his 4 best games. But he has more bust potential than any of the guys I have on this list. I wish he had tested at the combine completely, but after running a 4.29 40, he didn't need to. However, I do believe he's extremely athletic, and I think he probably would have scored over a 9.5 on his RAS. Golden is going to get drafted in the first round, and as long as the team that drafts him is patient and develops him correctly, he will be a really good receiver in the NFL. At number 4, I have Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka. Such a talented prospect. Whoever ends up being his quarterback in the NFL is going to love him. He knows how to get open. He has incredible hands and concentration. He also understands zone coverage and how to find his spots. He makes most of his plays over the middle of the field, and he profiles as an impact slot receiver in the NFL. He had a weird college career where he was never really the number one wide receiver despite the huge numbers he put up. As a true freshman, he walked into possibly the most talented wide receiver room in NFL history. They had Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming, and Emeka Egbuka. Already 4 first-round picks, and Egbuka most likely will be the 5th. Absolutely crazy. And the last 2 years, the number one wideout has been Marvin Harrison Jr., and this year it was Jeremiah Smith, another stud freshman. But Egbuka is a really good wide receiver prospect, and he actually reminds me a lot of JSN, and he projects to be a similar type of player. At number 3 is my guy, Luther Burden. He's a tough prospect to grade. If you watch his highlight reel, you will think he's a guaranteed top 10 pick and one of the elite players in this class. But Luther's so much more than his highlight reel, and he's one of the most fun players in this year's class. I believe he's an incredible playmaker with an insane combination of concentration and ball skills. He has more highlight reel catches than anyone in the country. He also forced 50 plus missed tackles, and he has a career contested catch rate over 50%. absolutely special numbers. And if you watch his 2023 tape, he is a guy who just effortlessly plucks the ball out of the air. He flashes late hands, and he looks like a top 5 pick in the draft. But then you get to 2024, and everything fell apart. The QB got hurt, and more scouts are poking holes in Luther's game. To me, yes, his route running does need a lot of work, but this is a guy who profiles as a number 1 receiver who can be 1,000+ yard guy early in his career. I think he's a legit playmaker and should go in the first round of this year's draft. And now let's get to my number 2 guy, McMillan out of Arizona, a big bodied, athletic, and physical receiver who doesn't offer the shiftiness of others, but is a fluid mover with an incredible catch radius. He's also dangerous with yards after catch, forcing 50+ career missed tackles himself. He actually might be a more well-rounded wide receiver prospect than the guy I have at number 1. He's nowhere near as explosive, but he's more polished, and he might become a number 1 wide receiver faster than any other guy in this class. His ceiling is not as high as guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. or Rome Odunze, but he actually matched up against Travis Hunter at cornerback in college and made an insane one-handed catch over him. He's a prototypical X-receiver in the NFL and can be a number 1 target on an offense. He's not a speed burner. He wins with elite footwork, concentration, and body control. I think he's a safe prospect with a high floor and a decent ceiling. Even if he doesn't develop into a number 1 target, he should at least be a big-bodied X-receiver capable of scoring 5 to 8 touchdowns a year. That sounds pretty legit to me. A floor of a Mike Williams type receiver who could develop into a Drake London or Mike Pittman type with the ceiling he has. People mention Mike Evans. He has that type of body style, but he's not quite that caliber of a prospect. I think he could be a top 15 pick and could even go as high as number 6 overall to the Raiders. And now let's talk about my number 1 receiver prospect, Travis Hunter out of Colorado. He is purely a special player. He's the most electrifying prospect in this year's draft class, a next level freak athlete who can be a number 1 weapon on offense or a shutdown corner on defense. The real question is, what are the chances that he can be both? He has insane body control, ball tracking ability, hands, movement skills, burst, and acceleration. As a corner, he's an elite technician, trained by Deion Sanders, and has developed into a guy capable of shutting down one side of the field and making game-changing interceptions. But get this, he was a full-time cornerback and learned wide receiver part-time. He's still developed into the best wide receiver prospect in this draft. He's a special talent, and he has generational traits at both corner and receiver. I think he has the best combination of speed, playmaking ability, and ball skills that I've seen at the position in a while. He's not quite as advanced as a prospect of any of the wide receivers that went top 10 last year, but he offers the same blend of electricity and explosion that Malik Neighbors showed off in New York during his rookie season. Travis Hunter is possibly the best player in this entire draft, and he should go in the top 2 or 3 picks. So let's step back and take a full look at the top 10. I'm open to criticism, and I know that my rankings at wide receiver are going to be different than most. And while this year's class does not stand up to that of 2024, it still brings an intriguing mix of players. A couple of bigger bodied X types, a few slot guys, and some playmaker types as well. Teams looking for a wide receiver are not in a bad position this season. It's not as deep or talented as the D-line or running back classes, but overall, it features a nice mix of players sure to find success at the NFL level. Who is your favorite wide receiver in this year's class? Or which of these guys would you like to see your team draft? Let me know in the comments, and if you disagree with my rankings, go ahead and give me your top 10. I'd love to see them. I'm hard at work finishing up my rankings before next week's NFL draft. I'll have player breakdowns and draft grades after the draft as well. I appreciate everyone who watches. Hit that like button and subscribe for more year-round NFL draft coverage.